Hello, hello, hello. It's Emma Holmes coming in from Rockstar HQ, and I am coming in to discuss a potentially a little bit of a controversial one, but also one that I received a message about from one of my gorgeous rock stars who wanted me to make sure that this one was something that I covered and needed a little bit of guidance and help and support with it. So I am here to talk today about copying and the very different ways that copying comes up and the different ways that you can look at it and deal with it and the things that you can do to make sure that it doesn't keep you stuck. So for me, I am massively attached and excited and committed to helping you to continue to make progress in your business. And I know that certain things come up that can keep you stuck and that can affect your mindset and that can feel heavy and that can stop you doing what you're here to do. And copying can be one of them. So let's dive into this bad boy. Let's talk about it. So I got a little message while I was on holiday last week from one of my gorgeous rock stars who had seen a post that I'd written about competition and, you know, whether or not we had competition, which is completely for another video, but had said to me that she wanted a little bit of help and support about copying. And she said that, you know, you help and support people that offer very similar services to you. You have got people in your communities that do things that are very similar to what you do. How do you stay chilled about people following the same path as you? And, you know, it winds me up. How am I going to get over this? And I think that this is a really common one. It's one that comes up so often. A little while ago, and I'm going to link this blog into the description below the YouTube video and into the blog where this video ends up too, so that you can have a look at it. And it's called I Know I'm on the Right Lines When ... And it goes a little bit like this. So the thought of seeing your words, your ideas, your phrases on social media but posted by someone else can seem spiky at best, wobblesome, and you get very defensive. You can get hurt and very angry. Now, I have seen this manifest in many ways, and I have seen people get incredibly stuck in the mud of people copying them, because the feelings that can come up when you see stuff that is very similar to yours can be really heavy. They can be really irksome. They can be really frustrating. And that kind of energy in your business can keep you stuck. It can stop you from moving forwards. And it's such an important one not to get stuck in, because actually, you know, what you can do is you can move forwards, or you can stay stuck at any given opportunity. So we're going to look at the ways that, you know, that this comes up. But, you know, lots of people will say, if you've inspired somebody else, then that means that you're doing good stuff. Now, that doesn't really help when you're feeling about it. I know that. I absolutely know that. But if we look at it from a really honest perspective, you know, people are not going to seek out crap to copy. You know, if your work is rubbish, people are not going to seek that out to copy. You might see a replication of your newsletter title, of your blog title, of some of the ideas in your articles or in your social media, or some of the ways that you are seeking to engage people. First of all, be assured that if somebody tries to do an identical replica of your business, it's not going to work for them. All right, they are not going to be able to take on your business and just do it themselves. That doesn't work, because they're not you. They don't have the energy that you have. They don't have the presence that you have. They don't have the life skills that you have. You know, every single one of us has a very different outlook on the world. We all have our own life filters. We all have our own experiences. We all have the things that have come up for us during our life. So therefore, we're looking at things through our very own life lens. And they can't be you. Nobody else can be you. They can't be you. It simply isn't you. They might do your stuff in a similar way to you, but it's not you. They haven't had your experience. They haven't had the things that have gone on for you. And if they're seeking to replicate your business, then at the end of the day, they're always, 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 always going to be a couple of steps behind you. Always. All right? And it's also really important that when you think about creating a business, that you kind of, particularly if you're teaching people, I think that this is really, really important. This is one that I absolutely, massively stick to all of the time. If I am teaching other people how to do what I do, then I simply cannot be precious about other people implementing the stuff that I've taught them. That just wouldn't work. I can't be precious about people implementing the stuff that they have come around me, whether they've paid me, whether they've got involved in my free products. I can't be precious about them then going away and implementing that, because that's kind of my job. I am here to teach people how to do certain things, how to implement certain things, how to get on with certain things. And if I suddenly become really, really precious about people then going away and implementing it, then that's all wrong. It's really, really wrong. It's important that we recognise that, these things can make us feel spiky. It can be that it's purely an over-enthusiastic onlooker to your social media or reader of your blog, or an over-enthusiastic student who is inspired by what you do. And 9 times out of 10, they're absolutely mortified that the thing that they did was similar to the thing that you did. So often it isn't done in malice. Often it is done either one, because you're teaching them to do that and you can't then be precious that they go away and implement that. Or number 2, that they have been inspired by the work that you do. And we'll talk about inspiration versus copying in a second. But, I think that the first thing that we need to think about is, really giving ourselves that opportunity to see clarity in the work that we do. Seeing your work elsewhere does not necessarily mean that somebody is out and out trying to copy you. Seeing your work elsewhere, if it keeps you stuck vibrationally, if it keeps you stuck in a negative energy, if it keeps you stuck because you can't move forwards, then that only hurts you. That's not going to stop them doing what they're doing. If you're just sat in an angsty state, that isn't going to help you to move forwards. Number 3 is that they are, there are lots and lots of people out there. There are lots of ideas out there. There are lots of things. And sometimes, newsflash, sometimes it is pure coincidence that people were talking about the same kind of topic at the same kind of time. It doesn't mean that they were on your radar. It doesn't mean that they were watching what you were doing. It doesn't mean that, they're seeking to copy your stuff. So we've got to think about, actual intent. Often people don't intend to copy you. They are inspired by your work. And so often we can rightly become quite precious about the work that we do. We put a lot of time and effort and energy and attention into the things that we do. Now, I put an awful lot of time and effort and energy and attention into things that I do. And I so often see stuff that I haven't taught, very specific stuff that I haven't taught, that I've been doing on my social media and that I've been putting out there, and it has inspired other people to do similar things. Now, number 1, I don't take ownership of the social media space. If people are inspired by the posts that I do, then that's a good thing. But also what I see this as is I see this as my stimuli for not staying stagnant. So if I do particularly when I do a recurring themed kind of post, a certain time, certain day, in a certain way, then that does end up being something that I see elsewhere. That's what happens. I've come to accept that. I know I've probably got about 5 to 6 weeks on a recurring themed post before I see other people doing the same thing. But that's a good thing, because that means that I don't ever sit on my laurels. I don't ever rest back and sit on my laurels and think, I've nailed that. Nailed it. Yeah, sometimes it can be like, I haven't even got a couple of weeks out of this and it's everywhere. But again, I can sit in the angst of that, or I can make the decision to continue to move forwards. I can look at it as my stimuli for non-stagnation. And that is absolutely what I do. And, just because I don't react doesn't mean I don't notice. That's the big thing that I often, reuse as my kind of mantra on it. I'm not going to go out there and I'm not going to pick up every single thing that is anywhere possibly related to the stuff that I've potentially done and go, that's going to keep me stuck. I'm not going to have the energy to actually move my own business forwards if I'm sat in that angsty state. Just because I don't react doesn't mean I don't notice. And I intentionally don't follow people who are in a similar field to me so that I can't ever get into that overly inspired kind of position and see something and go, oh, I'm gonna. And, I think that it is important that you sit with things and that you make sure that you're bringing your own interpretations through, your own stuff through. It might be that, there's topical issues that you want to deal with. And obviously, if you're dealing with topical issues, it may well be that you've got a similar viewpoint to somebody else. So that's totally fine. This isn't about you overthinking absolutely everything that you're doing. And I think that if you actually sat there and went, is this, then you wouldn't ever get anything done because, excuse me, most things have already been done. Most stuff has already been out there. Most stuff has already happened in some way, shape or form. I think that we live in such a big digital age that, if you actually went out to search and troll through things, you would find things that were similar to the work that you do. You would find things that have similar viewpoints to what you have. You would find things that actually do come and look similar to yours, and that's okay. What you've got to do is make sure that, that you are, in the most part, able to look at it objectively. Because subjectively, it can be very angsty, it can be very, can't believe this is happening, can't believe they've done that, Look at it objectively. Is it going to matter to you in 5 weeks' time? So if I say I've got generally a shelf life of about 5 weeks on a topic that I do as a recurring theme on my social media, if in 5 weeks' time, it's not going to matter that somebody did that, does it matter to me right now? Is it worth me putting my time, effort, energy and attention into that situation? If the answer is no, then it is time to move on. It is time to look at it as your stimuli for non-stagnation. It is time for you to look at it as your ability to then move forward. And it's a lovely, lovely thing that you can inspire other people. It's a great thing that you can give other people a level of inspiration that helps and supports them to build their business, that helps and supports them to do their thing. And it is about that objective look, because if we sit in the subjectiveness of it, it can keep us stuck. So yeah, it's a compliment for good work, number one, right? Because nobody copies crap. Nobody copies stuff that's rubbish. Nobody copies stuff that they don't like. Don't ignore it if it needs dealing with. Now, I'm going to talk about that in just a second. It is really important that when things come up and they are too close, okay? They are things that are, not happy with that. So recently I've had somebody who has had their script used. I've had somebody who has felt that, something that they've been selling has been kind of ripped off by somebody who potentially is a little bit more unscrupulous. I'm always of the view, right? I trust humans and I trust human nature until you prove me wrong. Okay, so everybody isn't going to be tarnished with the brush of, you're a copycat, you're a this, you're a that, you're the other. But equally, if it has crossed a line with you, then the first thing that you need to do is, number one, not go in all guns blazing on the offensive. Okay, you will be charged full of a lot of energy at that point. You will be feeling angsty. You will be feeling a little bit. You don't charge straight in. That's the first thing to know, is not to charge straight in. Okay, give yourself an opportunity for your angst to discharge a little bit. Going in, and accusing somebody of copying will get their shackles up and will get the whole discussion off on a bad footing. If somebody comes and accuses you of something, as the recipient of that, whoever that might be, whether they've done it intentionally or not, immediately when you're accused, you're going to go straight into defense mode. That is human nature. if somebody is attacked, they will seek to defend themselves. So you mustn't go in all guns blazing. You mustn't go in on the offensive. I would say you've got to let the energy discharge from it. And I'm not saying it goes unnoted. I'm not saying that you don't make contact, but what I am saying is don't do it until, you know, your emotions have come down a little bit. Don't jump in straight away with words like cease and desist. You know, I think that the first contact with somebody needs to be reasonable. It needs to be a pleasant kind of note. You know, I've helped lots and lots of entrepreneurs draft these over many years, but it needs to be initially you going in and going, I kind of just noticed this, and very similar to this. Most of the time you'll find that people come back absolutely mortified that, you know, that what they have is something similar, or they come back and they go, well, you know, I haven't seen your stuff, but, you know, it's really great that we're on the same hymn sheet, etc. You know, it will be much easier to resolve when you are looking at things through a little bit more emotionally discharged eyes than if you go straight in with a... Being kind doesn't mean that you're a walkover. Starting off with a conversation from a good place doesn't mean that you are allowing somebody to get away with it. You know, it is that ability to have that first conversation. It might be that that first conversation isn't what you want it, you know, it isn't how you want it to appear. But, you know, let that emotion drain away. Be kind at the outset. Get legal advice if you do need it at that point, and consider what time, effort, energy and attention you are prepared to put into that situation. How significant is that situation in your world? Is it something that you feel really, really, really strongly about? Because if you put your time and effort and energy and attention into something, it takes you away from doing other stuff. You can't get on with other stuff if your time, effort, energy and attention is placed into this box of somebody copying you. If this is placed into you wanting to get revenge or comeuppance, or, you know, what is it that you want to get out of it, and looking at how you can take that forward. So I would always say, you know, you're not a walkover by dealing with things well. I think that if you do deal with things well, then what will result is that you will get a more pleasant response rather than the attack, defend kind of response. And I think that it is important that you look at whether your time, effort, energy and attention is worth placing in that particular situation. Now, it might be that you don't get the resolution that you want, but I think that what is important is that you look at things very objectively. I see lots of people feel that, you know, the copying kind of thing can feel like a real attack. It can feel like somebody's taken something from you. And, you know, I think that when we live in this digital world, when we live in this online space, that sometimes we have to become a little bit more bulletproof to these kind of things, and we have to look at it as, you know, what was that other person's intention? What was my intention of producing that work? How important is it for me to defend that work? Am I prepared to be stuck in the defence of that work to the cost of my progression and moving things forward further? You know, what does it mean to me? You can copyright things. Now, I'm not going to go into copyright, and I'm not going to go into the legals of this, but you can look to legally protect your work at a deeper level. Obviously, every piece of work you can say, you know, it's the copyright of me. You know, in my books, you know, there's copyright information in the front of my books and on my website, and that's completely fine. But you can actually have trademarks attached to things. Trademarks are only as useful as you are prepared to actually enforce them. You know, it's up to you to actually enforce those trademarks. So as a trademark in itself, it's a piece of paper, but you've got to, you know, police that trademark and look after that trademark. If you're looking on at other people's work, if you are looking to learn from other people, I would always say, you know, what is my version of that? And I so often look, if I'm looking at the digital world as a whole, I'm usually looking outside of my own sector. I don't spend any time following other people in my own space, but I do learn from other people. I do learn different elements of my business progression from other people. I do have mentors. I do have people that I follow that help and support my business growth. But what I do is I make sure that I look at things, and if they have inspired me, I sit with my journal for a little while and I go, what's my version of that? How can I bring that to life in my way? What can I do that's a little bit different? Because it is so important that we don't get involved in the samey. I think when I'm talking about copying, I think that some of it is about letting a little bit of it go. And that doesn't mean you're a walkover, but that means that I think that there's an element of it that's inevitable in the world that we live in right now. I think we look at it as a stimuli to stay out of stagnation. I think that what we do is know that if people are looking at what we've done behind us, they're always going to be behind us. We're always going to take that next step. Always, 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 if it needs to be dealt with, if it's something that absolutely needs to be dealt with, that is too close to the bone, that is that is a duplicate of something that you have spent lots and lots of time and effort and energy on, then deal with it. But please do make sure that you discharge it of its energy first. If you go into attack, then people will respond with defense. That is human nature. And I think that when we're looking at other things, then we've got to make sure that we always say, what is my version of that? And don't look at creating carbon copies. And remember, just because I didn't react doesn't mean I didn't notice. So have an absolutely lovely day. I hope that that's given you a little bit of clarity around copying and around the things that you can do and the ways that you can look at it. And remember, nobody copies crap. Have a great day. Bye.